primeira vez que eu vou filmar aqui, ó, com o suporte na cabeça. Vamos ver se dá certo. Ai, ai. Vamos ver se dá. Olá, ó, uma parte da cidade. É parque, é floresta para todo lado. Ah.
E é 1777 até 1778. Ingleses.
Nossa.
A liberdade de colônias aqui.
Nossa. É interessante, são as cabanas onde eles ficaram. Então, pessoal, eles ficaram aqui, ó, muito tempo. Agora eu vou dizer que esse negócio... Ui. Esse negócio tá batendo aqui na minha cabeça, na minha testa. Tá apertando meu juízo. É o quê? Aqui. Olha só. Olha, gente. Eles ficavam aqui, ó. Mas é uma parte triste dessa história é que os ricos, os soldados ricos, eles tinham escravos. É espaçoso isso aqui, ó. Ali, ó, era a lareira. Gente, é legal filmar com isso aqui, ó, na cabeça. Ali eles botavam lenha para aquecer, fechava a porta. É espaçoso, ó, o teto. É legal isso, é só eu virar a cabeça, ó. Olha que cachorro bonito ali. Bem legal, gente. E é cimento, madeira e cimento. É bom que bloqueia bem o calor, bloqueia o calor de dentro e também impede que entre o frio, né, por fora. Olha só. Ó, essa parte aqui é a parte da lareira. Aí a fumaça sai lá em cima. Tem várias aqui, ó. Tem muitas.
Soldados para Inglaterra.
Eles prometiam a liberdade para os escravos que vinham guerrear com eles.
Os brancos ricos aqui têm essa soldados, elas têm sonhos de ter 200 escravos. Ele tem aqui, ele tem casa muito grande, mansão. Ele mora aqui com escravos.
Não.
Cozinhar para ele, fazer uma roupa para ele, tudo. Há uma
comida, roupa, lenha.
Cavalos para ele. Ele não precisa fazer nada.
Olha. Tem muitas casinhas dessa aqui, ó. Tem muitas cabanas. 12 soldados por cada cabana dessa.
Somos de soldados.
É? Hi.
How you doing? We're both park rangers, dressed similar as soldiers would have been from the time period of the Revolutionary War. You folks have any questions? You guys are doing the bike tour around the park?
I was not really just riding around.
Okay.
Do you know where you're going? Do you have a trail map? Do you need one?
No, we'll keep going until we can't go anymore.
All right, no worries.
That's a good plan
You guys are dressed really neat.
Yeah,
To a
this
certain degree, yeah.
Now that's an officer's jacket there.
it's a soldier's jacket.
That's
It's
a
not,
soldier's
there's
jacket?
nothing on it signifying. It would be called a coatee at the time. There's nothing signifying specific rank associated with this.
Right.
And it's important to remember that at this time there was no single uniform for soldiers in the army, so different regiments would have different uniforms, different coatees. The facings might be different depending on what regiment you belonged to. And for Valley Forge, I would say that Russell and I are both rather fortunate soldiers to have the clothing we have in the condition that it's in, especially at the time of marching.
Right.
The soldiers, a lot of them did not have adequate clothing, adequate footwear.
Yeah.
So yeah, we are in pretty good shape for Valley Forge soldiers.
Yeah. They dressed in rags more like that.
With what they
that,
had,
what you're
whatever they had, it was a hodgepodge. You know, you have to remember they're marching over 200 miles during the Philadelphia campaign, so their shoes are dissolving into nothing.
Right.
You know, I always like to say their long sleeves turned into short sleeves, their pants turned into shorts.
Yeah.
You know, they're patching everything up. Washington really doesn't even want the soldiers to have that because they're going to start taking the tail ends of those jackets and start cutting them and start patching.
Really.
And those are very expensive to make. They don't have enough for everybody. Eventually, in our sister national park, 2 years later, they're going to send over thousands of these jackets from France. High quality Revolutionary War jackets like that, but they'll be called lottery jackets because there's still not enough.
So you would draw a lottery
For the different regiments, for the different
get
states,
one
because
of those
Washington's
1,000,
gonna
right.
see who needs it the most.
Right.
You know, you might be a little dirty, you might have a couple holes in it, but those guys over there, they don't have anything and they're gonna get it.
Right.
And so that could lead to tension, and it does throughout the Revolutionary War. So it's always kind of, you know, Washington's putting out multiple fires.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, their main thing they might be wearing when they get here is linen. So great on a summer day. Not really when it's December and it's raining and there's mud on the ground.
Wool is better, and they
Wool
didn't
is
have.
better, yeah. And they'll put linseed oil on this. It's kind of like a protector, like a rain, coating, if you will. This is more of a fatigue jacket. So you're gonna be wearing this building the huts because you don't want those to get worn out. You know, these, yes, because they'll be more quicker to repair, cheaper to produce. And they're going to stand, you know, more of that wear and tear. Just like, you know, the plaid shirt of the day that you're going to wear for housework.
Right,
You know what I mean? You're going to want to get that dirty, while that other shirt, no, you don't want to get that dirty. Yeah. So, it just depends, as Sean was saying, of there's the Connecticut soldiers here at Valley Forge, they're going to have the best clothing and the best food.
Really?
Because their state is prosperous. Their governor is a friend of George Washington and supports the cause, and they're not under threat of a British attack.
Connecticut.
So,
Okay.
Connecticut at that time. It's going to change, obviously, as the war goes on. North Carolina and New Hampshire, no. They're poorer states.
They were royalists.
No, not necessarily. They're just the financial power
Right.
wasn't there. There was.
So their soldiers would have been, if they were here.
They're going to be in worse condition. Yes,
Right.
sir.
They were starving. Right.
They were constantly hungry.
So there was.
We don't know anybody who starved to death here, but
Was
there's
there
going to be a lot of malnutrition.
Was there a communal kind of consciousness here? Like, okay, Connecticut has some access to more food, and these guys
They're starting to do that.
they're starting to share it. Maybe
They're
or
trying
not?
to do that, but there's going to be pushback.
Yeah.
Virginia, for example, you know, like Thomas Jefferson's going to be the governor of Virginia. It's like Virginians take care of Virginians. North
Right.
Carolina should take care of North Carolinians. Why? You know, there's not this idea of we're all Americans.
Sure.
I'm a Virginia first, and then maybe this idea of an American second.
Right.
These things happen in our history in cycles, unfortunately. You know,
Right.
we'll all come back together at the end of the war, Civil War, that changes after, you know, vice versa. So things ebb and flow.
Are you guys history professors?
I was a teacher back home in New Jersey for a while before I was in the Park Service, and I have a history background.
Okay.
I'm not. I was a dual major in geography and anthropology.
Okay.
Master's.
Yeah,
in
you guys said
geography.
you're park rangers.
Yeah, we are.
Yep. So interpretive, you know, So they answer questions about the history, Viking directions, tell you where the bathroom
Yeah, I was
is,
telling Johnny that
all that kind of stuff.
that General Washington would have had a full retinue of slaves with him,
He would have.
and the wealthier officers who were had some property would have had slaves too, to take care of their clothing, their horses.
Yep, they're valets.
And I was telling her that many of these soldiers who were poor, their dream would one day to have a plantation and have slaves also.
Some, not all.
Really
More
talk about
more landowners.
what's his name? Thomas Paine.
Yeah.
He was a real revolutionary.
Yeah, you got to remember also with that, a lot of these guys are the youngest out of 3, 4, 5 siblings. So if they serve for 3 years or the duration of the war, they'll get 100 acres of land.
Yes.
Land's going to give you the right to vote and to have a say in this government.
Right.
And then possibly for some, not all, slavery, indentured servants or African American enslaved peoples.
Yeah.
Absolutely, for some. Others not. So it just really depends on where they are in their politics, because that starts to shape. A good example of that, at Washington's headquarters, one of Washington's aides de camp, John Lawrence.
Yes.
His father, Henry Lawrence, is the president of Continental Congress, George Washington's boss.
Okay.
He is one of the most wealthiest people in North America. He is one of the largest plantation slave owners in South Carolina.
Yes.
John went to school in England and Europe, becomes an abolitionist.
Is that right?
And is working and trying to convince George Washington and members of Congress to enlist freed African Americans to fight in the Continental Army, or to get enslaved peoples and serve
Yes.
in the army. And there's going to be pushback.
Right.
And there will be pushback during the American Civil War with that same idea.
Yeah.
And so what happens is Rhode Island is going to gather and get all this money and buy the freedom of African Americans and have them enlist in the Rhode Island regiments as the first African American regiment that will serve very successfully and distinguished throughout the Revolutionary War.
Rhode Island.
Rhode Island, yeah.
Yeah, we have actually a monument to that effect on this bike trail on the other side of the park. The monument to the Patriots of African Descent, and it's where the Rhode Island troops would have been encamped here at Valley Forge,
there were
recognizing that.
Freed by the Rhode Island who bought their freedom, and they were encamped here, and
Some of them.
there's a monument there.
Yep, for
Because
them.
I was telling Johnny that the British had African Americans, Negroes, and promised them their freedom if they fought against the revolutionaries.
Yeah, most of them would serve as pioneers, so they're more of not picking up a musket and shooting the soldiers. They would like to do that to prove that they are a man, you know what I mean, the show. But they're going to be more of building the bridges, building the fortifications,
Is that right?
doing fatigue work, building the trenches, fixing the log huts, doing all that kind of stuff for the British Army.
Right.
In and around Philadelphia
So it was
during
a
the
kind of
occupation.
slavery still.
Yeah, they'll get a salary and they'll get a uniform and they'll be presentable, but they'll still be treated,
Right.
not very nicely.
And then when the
absolutely.
British lost, I think they abandoned those.
They will abandon some, absolutely, because what happens is the Congress is like, well, we want those back, because a lot of them are going to flee the British lines. Sandy Hook example, Gateway National Park, the lighthouse there was here before the Revolutionary War. A lot of African Americans enslaved in Monmouth County.
In Connecticut?
Oh, no, I'm sorry, New Jersey.
New Jersey. Sandy Hook. Okay.
Yep. And they will go to, and then flee and go to the British lines. Some of them will actually be sent back after the British occupation at the end of the war, back into slavery, but some of them will go up to Nova Scotia and settle there. Some of them go to Sierra Leone and settle there. Some of them will even go to England and settle there.
Yes. Wow.
Absolutely.
Wow. That's incredible.
So so besides the Rhode Island, there's going to be a mix too of African Americans fighting side by side with enslaved African Americans serving in their stay of their plantation owner.
Yes.
And in addition, as those support staff that you were talking about, enslaved African Americans doing the cooking, doing the valet service, you're talking about the horses, fixing the uniforms, doing errands, that kind of thing as well, mixed in with this army. Absolutely. Yeah. Washington's going to have at least 3 to 4, maybe 5. Hannah Till, her husband Isaac. They're doing the cooking for Washington in the headquarters there.
Hannah Till.
Hannah Till. She has a newborn son born around the time of Valley Forge encampment, so there would be a newborn baby in Washington's headquarters.
Oh my God.
As well. That's newish discovery that we found out about, because for the longest time we didn't know that.
Wow, you guys make this place come alive.
Eventually, they're going to put a baby crib up in the garret where we believe that baby would have been sleeping and living during but not yet. Unfortunately, the building's closed right now. We had some flood damage, unfortunately. But eventually, so we're evolving our interpretation. And talking about those things that you mentioned. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, we learned a little bit down at Cliveden in Philadelphia that that was a slave plantation that was abandoned after the British took it over. But and the African Americans, the Negroes there, were expert horsemen. They took care of the horses, the carriages, their carriagemen. And I assume the same would have been true here too.
Yeah, you had Willie Lee or Billy Lee, George Washington's personal manservant or valet, who would have been doing that very same work.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He actually helped George Washington shave every morning with a straight razor.
Wow.
So Washington's paying him, a good salary.
So George Washington trusted him with his life.
Pretty much, absolutely. And eventually what he would do is he will buy his freedom, but he will live for the rest of his life out Mount Vernon and die there.
He bought his freedom, but still stayed.
Yeah, unfortunately there was
his family
an injury.
is there.
His injury there, I think, happened to him. He became like a cripple, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And then he died there, if I remember correctly.
Oh my God. Thanks so much.
I hope that helped. And I hope you have a great day.
I mean, it's just incredible to know that this place is alive.
Yeah, so as Sean was mentioning with that monument, if you do want to go over there, you keep following that paved sidewalk around, past the arch, Artillery Park, you'll see tour stop 7, you'll see Barnum's quarters, then you'll see the chapel, which you can kind of see peeking through the tree line there.
Yes.
And then just past it, going back towards the visitor center, you'll see it on the Joseph L. Martin Trail, that monument. Eventually, we're going to put some interpretive wayside there, talking more about that in that regiment, but not yet.
Okay. Thank you so much.
We hope that helped, and we hope you have a great day here.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Be well.
Gente, a história interessante que o homem contou lá. Ai, mais um pouco chato para traduzir. Olha aquele fumacê lá. Deve ser uma usina. É muito grande esse parque, gente. Eu vou subir aqui também. Pra porta-caminho. Olha um cachorrinho ali na janela. São dois, um lado de lá e um lado de cá. Hoje nós não trouxemos os nossos peludinhos. Ora, eles vão ficar em casa. Vamos esperar acalmar esse negócio aí de pandemia. Olha aqui mais uma cabana. Gente, eu vou passar aqui, né? Acho que esse pessoal passa aqui na minha frente. Eita, agora aqui é a estrada de carro, gente. Eu tenho medo, viu? Lá. Tem muitos chineses por aqui. Ih, geladeira. Água. Estamos na parte do cemitério aqui, ó. É outro lado daquele parque. Tem uma igreja ali que tá tocando esse sino. Ali, ó, esses prédiozinhos aí, essas cabanas, aquelas casas, tudo aí é de negócio do parque. Eu tirei o colete aqui da minha cabeça que tava machucando a minha testa. E aqui em ritmo. Olha, agora vamos passear no cemitério. Uhul. Aqui tudo faz parte da história do exército. Aqui, ó. É muito bonito aqui. Enquanto der, eu vou filmando. Eu tô segurando o celular. Tô segurando o iPhone. Aqui está a homenagem aos soldados negros, ó. Os patriotas africanos. Eles eram os escravos e lutaram na guerra junto com os ingleses com a promessa de receberem a liberdade após o final da guerra. Em 1777 a 1778. Eles ficaram aqui um verão, né, inteiro. Gente, nós andamos esse mundo todo de bicicleta. Pra lá tem o cemitério. O Brian foi ali falar um negócio lá com o pessoal ali. Tem a igreja do sino. Eu não filmei muito porque ficou caindo. Na bicicleta é muito chato segurar o celular. E eu tava com ele na cabeça, tava machucando minha testa. Aí eu tive que parar de filmar. Vamos andar isso aí tudo. Nem sei para que lado tá o estacionamento, porque eu acho que é do lado de lá. E a gente ficou conversando lá com o pessoal. Já andamos tanto, subindo tantas ladeiras, que nós estamos do lado de lá. Nossa, é tanta coisa. Ah, é isso mesmo, estamos para lá. O carro tá lá no estacionamento, bem longe. Essa parte aqui é distante. De hoje que a gente pedala para chegar aqui. Bom, pessoal, estamos aqui no Vale Forge, nos Estados Unidos. Aqui no passado, em 1777, os soldados ficaram aqui um verão. Ali tem as cabanas. Tem muita gente passeando aqui. Hoje é um parque histórico. A gente veio aqui só para pedalar. Tem gente pedalando, tem gente passeando com criança, com cachorro. Tem estacionamento, tem banheiro, que é um lugar muito legal. Pertinho de nossa casa, 30 minutos só. Interessante, né, isso aqui?
Portugueses usam arma como isso para destruir quilombo, palmeiras.
No Brasil os portugueses usavam isso aqui, ó, para destruir os quilombos. Mas imagina o trabalho, é muito pesado. Com certeza eram os escravos que carregavam, né?
Uhum.
Os escravos que carregavam isso aí no lombo.